Hi, thank you so much for tuning in. I am super excited that you're here. And today we have a very special guest. It's Riana Milne, and we're going to talk about emotionally healthy relationships. How do we acquire those communication skills to acquire that? And I just want to give an introduction of Riana. She has done so much amazing work. She is the best-selling author of Love Beyond Your Dreams, Break Free of Toxic Relationships, and Have the Love You Deserve. And I think that really speaks into all of your work. I know you've been doing so much stuff. So you're a clinical trauma and addiction professional, a certified mindfulness coach, and you're that bestseller. And you also have a podcast called Lessons in Life and Love. And you're an educational speaker and licensed mental health counselor for over 21 years. And I know that because I've interviewed you before.
Yes.
And then I also thought it was relevant that you live in Palm Beach in Florida, which is really nice. I miss it over there. And so much more to say, but you're going to read the bio. You're going to find out Riana is amazing at what she does. And I'm so honored to have you here on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samantha, for asking me back. It's nice to have your friendship over all these years and grow together in the messaging that we're trying to help the world with, right? So thank you for asking me again.
And I really look up to you and your family and how everything is going. And just to, yeah, it's so inspiring to talk to you. But I also wanted to ask you how you got into this work. To your own.
Oh gosh, do you want the long version or the short version? It started when I was young, and I asked my mom to go to a counselor when I was terribly bullied in middle school, and I was not allowed to go. So that's how it all started. I think it was like 13 or 14. And then I lost my very best friend to a drunk driver, and that's what made me go into be a LCADC, drug and alcohol counselor, in behalf of giving back in memory to Michael. And then I just started reading, since I was not allowed to go to counseling. I read all the masters, Dalai Lama, Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, Marianne Williamson, really adopted to the Course of Miracles, love Buddhism, spirituality. And that created the mindset for success, which I started teaching my models and actors when I had my own talent school at age 26. I went through a love trauma at an early age, 24, 25. When I had my daughters, they were pretty young. And I went through a love trauma when my husband actually frauded my mother out of a large sum of money, 200,000. Like back then, that's like $500,000. And I was left with the debt. And I took that on because of integrity. It was the right thing to do, even though I was a single mom and trying to make my way with a new business. So I couldn't focus on the bad. I had to focus on what I did have: gratitude, spirituality, my mindset, and just, trying to do the right things by serving people and helping them create the life they desired and have the love they deserve very early on with the talent industry. And then I knew I wanted to go back to school to be a psychotherapist. Coaching wasn't even invented back then. We're talking like, oh my God, it was 30 years ago, right? So I had the talent company 10 years, sold that off, and then was able to go back to my master's, get that in psychology once my girls were old enough and out of college. Then it was my turn to go back. And they were launched and well on their way. So that's when I went back and got a triple master's in psychology, opened up as a psychotherapist. But when the coaching model became certified, which I loved from the beginning because it's very educational, motivational. And when I was asked in my master's, go to 5 therapists and tell me which one you liked, I said, I didn't like any of them, because they don't help me. They just have me talk about my feelings. Like, I want answers, I want solutions. So I was a rebel from the beginning. And when the coaching model came out, I became certified 2009 and 10, and then wrote my books and my notebooks for my clients, and then came out full time as a coach in 2015. I went global 2017. So that's my story.
Yeah, and I love that you give that recap, because you've done the work with your girls and you've done it in your family. You've been in it, single mom, lots of challenges. So.
Yeah, and the girls are amazing and their families. I'm now a grandmother to 6, so it's pretty cool to see it all come together.
Well done. So all the stuff that happens, all our traumas can help us somehow, some way down the line.
Yes, yes. Luckily, I had learned the mindset work early and grew my daughters up with that. And they became very successful and married great husbands. And, my son-in-laws are like the sons I never had. So we have a very close but interracial family, intermix. We call us the United Nations, right? Because we have a lot of mix in our family, and it's really big family love. It's really great.
Oh yeah, you're my hero. So yeah, where to start? Okay, we want to help the listeners today, the woman out there watching. And now that we know that men and women are so different, and we get into these chaotic situations, like communication skills and practice after you lash out, or like even before, during, and after the big explosion. That's what I wrote to you. So that's when you're like me, wired to fire off. How do we create
Okay.
a healthy relationship? How do we start?
Okay, so the goal that I help my people with, whether they're single or couples or straight or LGBTQ, is how to be emotionally healthy themselves and attract an emotionally healthy, evolved, and conscious partner. So breaking that down, emotionally healthy means we have handled and really gotten beyond all the childhood traumas we might have experienced. And the research shows 100% of us have at least 3 to 4 of the top 10 traumas I talk about on my childhood trauma checklist assessment. Okay, so that's first. We got to heal that and be really confident, have a lot of self-love, joy in our life, and then we attract someone of the same. So step one, if you're not feeling happy and joyful and confident about who you are and feel in your mind you are the whole package, without that, you're going to attract someone else that might be, still experiencing their emotional traumas, right? So that's step one. Then to be evolved means to be your highest and your best self. So it's somewhat of a spiritual concept, but the way we think, and when I say we, it's my clients, my graduates, the people I've worked with over 22 years. The way we think is what I do, say, right, is it for the good of all? Is it good for me and others, right? So it's this universal concept of really trying to be a good person, have purpose in life, and do something that helps serve the world in some way. So that's evolved. And conscious means you think about everything you do, say, or write before you do it. Most people do not. Only about 5% of our population thinks consciously. And the impulse or the unconscious reactions, communications, usually comes from the hurtful past. Okay, so when we're conscious about it, we stop and we think. So when it comes to couples, I even have, I do all these little exercises and quotes for my couples to learn and remember, because there's all different kinds of learners, right? So one is called stop. So this is stop and think before you do, say, or write. So the first one is what I do or what I say, since we're talking about communication, will this hurt me in any way? 2, will it hurt the one that I love? 3, will it hurt my children or extended family? 4, will it hurt my reputation on the job? 5, will it hurt me in the community? If in doubt, go without. Don't do it, don't say it, don't write it. Think on that a little bit more. Put it into your meditations, right? So it's slowing down and really thinking through the concept, is this good for all? So that's one technique that I teach my couples. The couples also, I teach them this quote, it's you and me against the world. In other words, your partner should be number one in your life. The mistake most people do is they put their kids first, running them around to all these activities, making sure they all do that. And then they're too tired to go out and have great dates or experiences together as a couple. So we talk about balanced triangles like an equilateral triangle, 3 equal sides. And it should be partner A, partner B, and C is the relationship. And what you do in your individual time, this is career time, exercise, friendship time, maybe your own family time, and they have theirs. But this third leg often gets shortened, which is the relationship time. So you really have to be consciously aware, how much time are you putting into your relationship? And when you are out, not bitching and moaning about the problems that are going on, try to remember back what it was like when you first started dating. You didn't want to bring up anything negative. You wanted to be out with your partner, listening to music, dancing, flirting, having some fun. So you have to really be consciously aware about putting fun into the relationship, good rapport, and not always talking about the bad stuff. Too many people live without gratitude. What do we have? Right? What can we celebrate? And focus on that instead of the negative. The research shows 8 out of 10 of us have 8 out of 10 negative thoughts. That's the fear-based negative mindset. That's what we call living on the dark side. And where the dark side is where most people live, with these fear-based negative thoughts, because their childhood trauma is not healed.
Why do you think we go into spending all this time or focus on our children? Because I love what you said about the relationship takes the back burner. Is there a particular reason for us just focusing on the kids and forgetting about the relationship?
Well, as women, we're socialized to make sure that the kids are okay. I know, and I really want to commend the millennial men today are really stepping up. Like I see my son-in-laws really spending more time with the kids. That's like such a beautiful gift. And that was one thing I asked my son-in-laws when they asked permission to marry my daughters. I said, please be a good father, an active father. And they're amazing at it, where my children barely saw their dad. And when it was his custody time, the grandmother or their aunt was with them, not the father. So, I mean, it's just really sharing the parental responsibilities, super important across the board. That even means diaper changing, bottle feeding, this stuff. That's not the pleasantries, but the things that have to be done. So working as a team. Yeah.
The men don't have a baby changer thing in their bathrooms.
I mean, it is a team. I mean, couples today have to think of team. I mean, the women most of them are still out there working. So they're being a team and trying to help with the finances. So the men have to be a team as a parent equally. So super important there. Communication, Sammy, we were talking about this. This is super important. Where people come from, they have certain either cultural or even the areas that they live, the way that they speak and communicate. And they're so normalized, this is what we call norms, that it often can push your partner away. And I'll use this example. I had a couple in my therapy office in Delray Beach, and the man said to me, I asked, why are you here? And he says, I can't stand it anymore. All she does is yell at me. Now, this woman is a South Philly Italian woman. Now, I'm from Philadelphia, and I can talk very large and animated because that's what we do in Philly, right? And when I started doing that in Florida, they thought I was a little aggressive because I talk very quickly. Now, that's Philly style. But if you're Philly Italian from South Philly, now it's like loud and boisterous. But I'm used to that. I get it, right? So she turns to her husband and says, what do you mean I yell at you? I never yell at you. And I calmly said, you don't see it or hear it, do you? Because she doesn't. It was so normalized for her. This is just the way I communicate. And he was a Midwestern person, grew up on a farm where things were very laid back and moved very slow. Okay, so this was a constant rift, and he would shut down and walk away because he felt yelled at and disrespected. She kept pushing for him to talk about their issues, and he was so, internally traumatized by this kind of treatment that he couldn't. So we have to look at these things in communication. Pace, meaning how fast do you talk? The faster you talk, the more it sounds aggressive. Pitch, if it's like da 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 da, sounds aggressive. Tone of voice, right? Some people think you're being nasty when you don't realize it. So you really have to clue in. Volume, the louder you are, the more aggressive it sounds. Now, let's talk about when a couple usually fights, the volume keeps escalating. Guess who wins the fight? The one that talks slow and calm, the one that maintains control. And some people say, well, how can I do that when they trigger me? Well, when your childhood traumas are healed, You learn the communication of talking slow and calm and focused, right? And there's a whole new, another communication tip that I teach, but there's volume. And then the last one is, if in doubt, go without. Again, if you don't think it's going to be nice, if it's going to hurt you or them, the relationship, just don't say it. And just say instead, you know what, hon, I just need some time to gather my thoughts. Now, scientifically, the brain of the man and the woman are very different. The man, he thinks linear, like step by step by step, where women can do all this multitasking. It's the way our brains are. So when a man says, well, I need time, he really truly can't gather his thoughts to the words and speak his feelings. Now let's add childhood trauma on top of that. If he grew up in a household where if he tried to share his feelings, his father would hit him or scream at him, or he would get grounded, he learned, I better not share what's on my mind or I'm going to get punished. So his norms make it extremely uncomfortable for him to try and share his feelings if he doesn't feel safe, especially with someone yelling at him. Talk to me. What's the matter? Why won't you talk to me? Well, because you're yelling at him, right? Yes. So my job as their coach is that I have to analyze partner A's childhood traumas and partner B. Then the third entity is the relationship. What keeps coming up in the relationship? There's always a cycle in most relationships. It's good for a while. Then there's an emotional trigger. One gets upset, which triggers the other. Then they're not talking, or they're screaming, or the sexual intimacy breaks down. There's all these different repercussions. So then we have to teach them the best way to talk to each other with their childhood trauma triggers in mind. So they're not triggering in each other. Absolutely. You see, and they both have to feel safe. And a woman's number one thing that she needs for sexual intimacy is safety. Her cave woman brain is hardwired that way. If she doesn't feel safe, she cannot feel intimate. So if the man is screaming at her, she's going to shut down. If he's screaming at her, why wouldn't you have sex with me? Well, you're not going to help the situation by yelling at her, right? So these are all the dynamics that I do with my couples in our relationship work together.
I love that aspect of knowing your own childhood trauma and your husband's, and that equation. I think I didn't even, I'm thinking, how's it possible in your first marriage to be healed already? Like, how can one, because it takes a lot of time to heal your childhood traumas, right? And you do find the one that's on your same evolved.
Yeah, being a certified clinical trauma professional, all my studies say, ideally, I have that individual or couple with me 6 months. That is ideal. Because of, budgets, I do have a program that's 4 months that I work with people. But the more toxic dynamics that exist, the longer I usually need to work with people, because it's just points to the fact that they had severe childhood trauma. Again, experiencing childhood trauma is no one's fault. You were an innocent child when these things happened to you. Okay, so it's not about guilt or shame, or at this point blaming your parents, because really, the childhood trauma goes through at least 3 generations. So we have to really do the family systems work and understand why your mom or dad might have done what they did to you and what did they go through, rewrite the story, forgiveness, which is the spirituality piece, and then all the different techniques that my clients learn to help deal when they're feeling emotionally triggered or vulnerable. One thing is boundaries too. I mean, when somebody oversteps their boundaries, how do you handle that? Another thing is low trust. They don't trust their partner because they couldn't trust their mom and dad's love. The first people that they're supposed to love, if they couldn't trust them or their words, or they lied to them, or they saw them steal or cheat, then that trust factor's not there. So we have to rebuild the trust, right? And without trust, you have nothing. And if there is a couple's infraction, let's say the gentleman cheated and he's trying to save the marriage, and he just wants to blow right through the healing time and just try to make love with her again. She goes, I'm not ready. I tell him trust, here's another little thing to remember, trust equals consistency over time.
That's good.
So the more he is consistent over time with his wife, improving his love and dedication and showing his remorse, the more her trust can rebuild back so she can become intimate and feel safe again.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I remember shutting Torsten down because I'd say something, lash out. And then I remembered when I flipped it around and I got a handle of my own emotions, I was able to sit and just wait and not wanting him to come back out. Because when I was like, come back out of your shell, I was again doing something wrong. So if I just sat and patted him on the back and I was okay, he'd come out way faster than me
That's
trying
right.
to pull him out because I so regretted what I did. So it was like, fix it, fix it. First it was like, oh, this hurts. Oh, and then you don't love me anymore. Pity party. And then it was like, oh, I hate you. You did that to me. Like, and then below it all, it was like this fix it, because I felt like a loser in love. That was like, happened really fast.
Yeah, that's all emotional triggers from your past, Samantha. That's
Yeah,
all childhood
like
trauma. You don't love me stuff, going back into victim mode, jumping to what we call false negative assumptions. That's huge for people with unhealed trauma, always assuming the worst. The jealousy, the control of your partner. If I don't control him, I might lose him. Well, if you over control, guess what? You will lose him. So all these childhood traumas getting in the way of that emotionally healthy relationship. That's why they have to be healed. So yeah, and then when I ask couples, are they going out on dates? And they're like, well, we do a lot of group dates. We go out with our friends.
Not the same.
And the research shows it should be 3 individual, just the 2 of you, dates to 1 group date. Because what happens on a group date? The men sit at the end and talk about football. The women sit at the other end, they talk about their kids. Then they go home, the men are expecting sex, the woman's not really feeling it. Why? Because a woman needs her 5 senses ignited to feel sexual. Taste, something good to eat. Touch, her man touching her. Smell, does he smell nice? Does he look like nice? Or is he just in a t-shirt and shorts and looks like a bum? I mean, men have to understand how women get turned on, and men have to understand also that the sexual center of the brain of the man is 7 times that of a woman. So when he's expecting her to be just as sexual as he is, he's fighting science. Okay, so there's so much to teach couples. That's why there's a 150-page workbook with my people, because there's just so much to teach them.
Yeah. Where do you have that info about the 7 times bigger?
Oh, that was my original research for Love Beyond Your Dreams. I had like 350 scientific journals cut into that book. It's like,
interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's important to know the differences of the psychological and physiological, the biology of men and women to get along best. They should have an open conversation. What's your best time sexually? I hate to say it, but God kind of made a mistake. They spiked the testosterone in men in the morning, and most women are not feeling sexual first thing when they wake up. They want to use the bathroom, take a shower, brush their teeth. They want to be awake. So that's really a big kind of a conflict there that I usually have to talk through. The man should be asking his woman, what is the best time for you, hun? It's usually from like noon till about 10 at night. If they're out on a date, midnight, if they're out having a good time, she's feeling it, not after all day, kids, cooking, laundry, 11 o'clock news, to turn off the TV. It's like, you want to have sex? She'll probably say, no, I'm not feeling it. Why? Because her 5 senses are not ignited. Oh, there's so much to teach on sex. I don't know if that's part of this panel or not.
I always end up talking about it. I think me and Torsten was so much in love for so long, but we ended up having sex instead of communicating. And that you have to communicate in words too. But yes, take the sex piece away and the war just increases, right? Because then you get
that's usually, there's a big elephant in the room that's not being addressed, and then the sexuality goes down. So you have to have the trust factor for men and women to talk about your feelings as they occur. You have to have open-mindedness, right? And your partner should be your best friend. Think about when you have a best friend. If you have a rift, you're able to talk through it with your best friend. And
Exactly.
this is the problem with relationships that just go on chemistry. They start sexuality too soon. They don't build the foundation of the deep friendship first. And they're always worried about, let's have sex. And then when the sex wanes, then they don't have the foundation solid.
Yeah, it's
And
like
that's what happens with a lot of couples. So it's important to build the friendship first, and really pay attention to the balance triangles as you are growing a family, and making sure that, you have that time together, that's quality time.
so much good stuff. It's amazing. I remember when you went through those 10 childhood traumas. I'm going to link to that interview again. And I don't,
Okay, great.
yeah,
Yeah.
so the woman out there watching can get all your stuff because it's like a huge library of love.
Yeah, there's the childhood trauma checklist is part of the ebook also on my website. And I have 4 free love tests there at rianamilne.com. So anybody can help themselves to that. And free book chapter downloads, 60 pages of each Live and Love Beyond Your Dreams are there. So
Amazing. I was just thinking if you wanted to pick one childhood trauma and go into that a little bit, because I was thinking like, yeah, of course, think about myself, but what's the relationship?
yeah.
Maybe.
Let me do the combination of 2, because this is the one that impacts people the most. Trauma number 7, which is personal trauma, where you didn't feel good enough, you felt different. You might have been a chubby, overweight child, or skinny and gawky, or bullied for something else while you were young. It might have been cultural. It might have been coming out as gay or lesbian. You weren't accepted by peers or family. It could be anything. You could have been the only African-American in all Caucasian school. You might have had friends, but you just felt different, So that trauma number 7 mixed with trauma 2, which is verbal messaging, not hearing compliments from your parents or the words, I love you, or hearing things like, I know you tried your best. A B is fine, babe, because I saw you working really hard at that, right? Just, giving them compliments and saying, if they did feel bad about something, talking them through that. Because children don't know how to heal themselves and they just take it on and on as wounds, right? If you heard verbal put downs or what we call slurs, like you look fat in that, you should change your outfit, put something else on before you leave. Those are the kinds of things that you remember forever. So that in combination is what most people have a hard time dealing with, those critical messages that are in their head, which we call negative self-talk, or that's also referred to as ANTs, automatic negative thoughts. Okay. These are the things that can really tend to sabotage people, because that's what could lead to jealousy, control, impulsivity. Like, I deserve it, so I'm going to go get that sports car, even though my wife won't like it. She'll deal with it. Impulse moves, perfectionism, that critical voice, it's not good enough, and driving yourself crazy or towards workaholism or other addictions, drinking to settle down. These things, most people with unhealed trauma, some of the signs are ongoing anxiety, bouts of depression, social isolation, attracting toxic or narcissistic partners, codependency. Once you have a partner, you're hanging on so tight. The abandonment can lead to love addiction or codependency if you had abandonment issues. False negative assumptions, like we talked about before, low trust, and cycles of abuse or neglect. So chemistry, again, pulls you to the past, the dynamics either between mom and dad or between dad and you and or mom and you. And we have to heal that. So you feel really fantastic as you're going out to meet a partner. When you feel like you're the whole package and you can easily identify someone whose childhood trauma is not healed by their moodiness or their narcissism or their addictions. There's many other traits that my people look for, but when you can easily identify them, you can quickly say yes or no by date 1 or 2 and know why. And that is the secret. You want to know why, and you just keep going. The world is abundant. And, even the social stigma, people saying you're single, why don't you have a relationship? Feel okay if you don't have the relationship. If you're choosing, I am not going to date for 6 months to a year because I'm growing my business, which I consciously chose to do, to grow from a local practice to a global business. It takes a lot of time, marketing, attention, building my online platforms. So if I had someone in my life, that progress would have slowed down probably, by 60, 70%. So, I was on a mission knowing I was facing towards retirement soon. It's like, I don't have a time for a guy right now. It's like, I'm focused on business, my family, my friendships, having fun, traveling the world before COVID. And that's what I focused on, and building the business. So whatever you decide, have confidence in that, and don't let society tell you have to stay married if you know it's toxic. Who's judging you? Like, don't allow that. You choose for yourself what is best for me at this time, right? So take the time to heal. If you know you're in a toxic relationship, don't feel stuck because your mom might be mad or your dad might be mad if you leave the marriage. If you want coaching help and your partner does not, you start. That's the number one way to show I am serious. I don't like how things are going, and I am serious in getting help. If you get help, great. You'll be invited in once you're ready. If not, my clients know that either they're going to be totally ready to go out into single world, or they're going to have the skills to change the marriage themselves, which I have done with, I'm thinking 4 people I have in mind right now, because their partner would not come.
Yeah.
And that's fine. So the thing is to stand up for yourself and say, this is not right. I am unhappy. This is toxic. It's making me sick. I can't sleep. I have headaches. I have stomach aches all the time. I'm losing weight. I'm gaining weight. I'm anxious. I'm crying. Irritable bowel syndromes, extreme fatigue. I mean, it comes out in many different ways, this trauma or the traumatic relationship. So when you recognize that in yourself, you take the first step and say, it's time for me, right? To create that life I really desire for myself. And then you have the love you deserve, because you'll know exactly what to do. So we do all the life work first. Then my singles go out and date afterwards, or if I'm with a couple, we have to work it on things as things go along. But I definitely have to do partner A, then partner B, and work on these communication skills as we're going along.
So much great stuff. Oh, amazing. You really.
Thank you.
Blown away. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom with us and with me. I'm so thankful. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Thanks for asking me back.
Yeah, of course. It's an honor. It's great. I truly am a fan, and I don't, just say that, but I am, and you're my role model. And
thank you, Samantha. That's really beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm really honored.
And you have different free gifts, and I'm going to link to them in the interview. And you have so much stuff to give out. So the woman out there watching, please take advantage of this generous gifts from Riana Milne, and just do the work. Don't wait, and don't let any circumstances hold you back. Just do it. We're all here to help you. So there's nothing holding you back, and we'd love to answer any questions you have. So I'm going to send the link for your free gifts, and that's the first step in getting to know Riana's work.
Perfect. And remember the podcast, Lessons in Life and Love. I have 110 shows out there, and more to come. And that's on my YouTube channel, Riana Milne, as well.
I don't know how I missed that. I'm going to definitely go in and subscribe to that right away. Thank you so much.
Okay, sure.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Have fun and have a great time with your lovely, lovely family, and have fun over in not California, Florida.
Florida and Austin now. They're in Austin.
In Texas. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Amazing. All right. Thank you so much. Big hug from Denmark.
Love you. Bye-bye.